Okay. Okay. So I'm recording the session. From some time from now, I will publish it on YouTube, but the camera only shows myself. Okay, so we'll talk about real-time intelligence in Microsoft Fabric. What's new in real-time intelligence in Microsoft Fabric? What's new? Some time ago, we had a session about real-time analytics in Microsoft Fabric. This gave a good introduction about real-time analytics, but Microsoft changed so much the feature that they decided to rename the feature. It's not real-time analytics anymore, they call real-time intelligence. So I will show what's new in real-time intelligence, but it's not only about new features. What I will show you, it will be like starting from the beginning. It doesn't mind previous knowledge about the real-time environment. Hello, welcome. And this is not only about real-time intelligence. This area, what Microsoft includes in real-time intelligence, can be used for data even if you are not ingesting data in real time. Even if your data is not being ingested in real time, you can still use these features. In the middle of the session, after showing some of these features for the real-time environment, I will show how to, let's say, make a shortcut and use them even if you are not ingesting in real time. Because some of them are really very interesting, even if you are not ingesting data in real time. So the agenda today, we'll talk about event stream enhanced capabilities. Microsoft Fabric is like cover over many other services which are available in Azure, for example. If you would like to develop this in Azure, you could go to Azure and make the development in Azure. But nowadays, with Microsoft Fabric available, developing a solution like this in Azure is like developing in lower level, while Fabric will give everything ready to use for us. Event stream, for example, is an object that replaces, Event stream itself replaces two Azure services, which is Event Hub and Stream Analytics. Both services in Azure are replaced by the event stream in Microsoft. It was like this before, but now event stream has what is called enhanced capabilities. I will highlight what improved from the last time. We will see the real-time dashboards working. It was not possible to see this last time, and they were not available yet. Now we have real-time dashboards. The previous dashboards that Power BI had could not be used with this kind of real-time ingestion in Fabric or with Fabric data at all. The previous dashboards that Power BI had, I will say had, they only make the auto refresh feature if you are using a streaming dataset. Very limited now that we have many other options to make the ingestion of data. So be limited to streaming dataset is not very good. So Microsoft introduces something completely new, which is the real-time dashboard, and in fact is way more powerful than the usual dashboards that we had before. If you are not too familiar with Power BI, like I'm saying, be careful with the word dashboard. People mix the word dashboard with the word report. I'm not talking about Power BI report. I'm talking about the Power BI dashboard, a special object that was mostly designed for streaming data in real time and for streaming data sets. Actuals from real-time dashboards. This is another very important feature because a lot of people keep saying about real-time, real-time, real-time. But half of the people who say that they want to see the data in real time, in fact, they don't need it. They don't need it because no one will really be looking to the data in real time. On the situations when the data is really needed in real time, these are not situations where you would like just to put the data in reports. When the data is really needed in real time, you want an automatic reaction when something happens. If you need the data this fast, you don't want someone to be looking to the data and take an action depending on some conditions. It will fail. It will not work. You want an automatic reaction, and that's possible. That's possible. There is a specific feature in Microsoft Fabric for this, but this feature is very and extremely linked to the real-time dashboards. The most powerful ways to use these features are linked to the real-time dashboards. So you build a real-time dashboard, and from the dashboard, you take an action over the data that is there. It's not the only way to use it, but it's the most powerful one. And we'll talk about Lakehouse and the real-time dashboards. As I said, all these features that I'm talking about, they should not be exclusive for real-time ingestion, for who has so much data being ingested every second. Okay, these people need it, but the ones who use Lakehouse also need to see real-time dashboard. Maybe they don't need their dashboard refreshing every 1 second, but they may need the dashboard automatically refreshing every 1 minute, 2 minutes, or something like that. This is still a task for a real-time dashboard. So there is still a lot of resources, a lot of usage to link Lakehouse to real-time dashboards. And yes, this is possible. You don't find this being mentioned, but when I show how to do it, you see it's extremely easy. Extremely easy. And we'll talk about Kusto policies. Kusto is the database that we use for real-time ingestion, so we ingest the information inside the Kusto database. There are some reasons for that. Kusto has some benefits in relation to other kinds of database, like lakehouses, for example, and other kinds, to make it better for real time. One of these benefits are the policies. The policies which allow us to make some automatically manipulation of the data in the database. We'll talk about all this. I have a scenario, and I will build a solution over this scenario. What's our starting scenario? We'll use the New York taxi rides example. Is a set of data about taxi rides happening in New York. So we have the information about the rides happening every second in New York. And the information which arrives for us contains the pickup location, where the ride started, the drop-off location, where the ride finished, and both pickup location, drop-off location happening in different zones of the city or boroughs of the city. This is the data that we use, but I already have ready to use. I defined a domain called Malta Real Time. I'll not go too deep in relation to domain management in Microsoft Fabric. It's interesting to know that Microsoft Fabric not only supports, but let's say goes towards the data mesh architecture. Implementing data mesh architecture in Microsoft Fabric is extremely easy. Some time ago, we had a session about data mesh. I'm trying for some time to write an article. I never finished the thing. And I'm waiting some recording of an online session that I delivered about data mesh to be ready. It will be public in a while. So what I'm saying that domain Malta Real Time is that I organized everything that we are building today in a single domain. This is configured in the Power BI administration area. I created a domain called Malta Real Time. Then inside this domain, I configure some workspace, one workspace called Real Time Malta Lake, one workspace called Real Time Malta Custo, one workspace called Real Time Malta Stream. Why three workspaces? Why am I using three workspaces? Why I don't use one single workspace instead of three? Well, this idea of using different workspaces for different kinds of objects, this is something that I have in mind since the beginning of the work with Microsoft Fabric, in the very starting alpha versions, beta versions, and so on. I always had the idea that we can't put everything in a single workspace. We can't mix people who is dealing with data warehouse with people who is dealing with notebooks and Python programming. This can't be mixed. So we need to break down the workspace according to the objects that we use. That's an idea that follows me, and I still defend this idea a lot. But Microsoft recently introduced a feature called Task Flow. The feature Task Flow seems mostly a graphical feature that you have inside each workspace that allows you to define the flow of data and the flow of objects inside your workspace. And this is very interesting, and this helps to find the objects. Another problem if you mix everything in a single workspace, finding the objects. The task flow and the support for folders help you to find the objects. So my original idea that we need to break this down in multiple workspace can be argued because now we have better features to find exactly what we need to work with inside every workspace. Other reasons for one side or another would be DevOps. But this DevOps is a bad news for the DevOps engineer. Is you right? It's a bad news for DevOps engineer. I cry when I need to make anything that could resemble DevOps in Microsoft Fabric. It is a pain. It's extremely painful. Microsoft Fabric is not there yet in relation to that. It still has a long way to go. Okay, inside the workspace real-time Malta Lake, I created a lake houses. Right there, Malta Lake, I left the lake house there. Inside the workspace real-time Malta Custo is where I created an event house. Real-time house. Event house? Maybe you are not familiar with the word event house, because when Fabric was released, what was created for real-time analytics were custom databases. But what Microsoft concluded? Microsoft concluded that the custom database were too expensive. They would consume too much the Fabric capacity. And Microsoft created a feature called Event House. And in this feature, Event House is like a collection of custom database. You create the Event House, and inside the Event House, you can include multiple custom databases as needed. Then the resources in relation to capacity and the configurations in relation to some policies can be made common on the Event House level. And this helps to reduce the cost a bit. Microsoft invested so much in this idea that they decided that custom database can't be created anymore alone. If you try to create a custom database, there isn't this option anymore in the Fabric environment. You need to create an event house, and when you create your event house, it already contains the first custom database. Inside the event house, it already has the first custom database. Inside the Lakehouse, I created a table locations. Why I created the table locations? I will give more details about this, but we have the real-time ingestion, the information that we'll be receiving on every second. And every good API, every good system tries to minimize this information. They try to minimize this information, not passing, for example, dimension information. For example, from what zone this ride started? From what borough this ride started? This would be big text strings, and this would make the information bigger. The information which is arriving every second would be bigger. So every good API intended to be used for real-time ingestion minimize the information that you receive. So you don't receive, for example, the name of the zone or the name of the borough. You receive an ID which points to a dimension. The dimension needs to be loaded from another location, from another direction, and doesn't need to be loaded in real time because it changes very often. Almost never changes. In some cases, almost never changes. So it's not part of the real-time ingestion, but it becomes a dimension of the data that is being ingested in real time. That's the example of the table location. And that's why the table locations is already ingested inside the lakehouse and not custom. Custom is intended to the real-time data. Custom is more expensive than the lakehouse. How do we measure that? How do we know that? Simple example. Custom is stored in SSD hardware. Lakehouse is not. This is already one example that shows one of the reasons why custom is for real time and Lakehouse is not. Not exactly for real time. So we leave the storage in custom for real time data that we need, and we store everything else in other storage that are not so expensive like custom. But we can make shortcuts. And in some situations, we need to make shortcuts. For example, I may need to make queries which join the information from ingested in real time from the rides with the dimension. So again, inside the event house, inside the custom database in the event house, I can make a shortcut to the location table located in the lakehouse. And I can use this shortcut to access the data from the lakehouse for some specific queries over my data. There are some limitations. There are some special ingestion policies that you can't use with shortcuts, which is sad. What is said, because this would be useful. There would be a lot of use for that. But this shortcut possibility is already unlocked. I have a query set prepared. The query set is called Rides Queries. I left some queries prepared for us to use during the session. I will explain why I chose to store them in a query set, to leave them in a query set instead of querying directly in the custom database. There is a reason for that. And then we're talking about real-time ingestion. There are many different architectures for real-time ingestion, but usually there's many architectures for real-time ingestion. They are variations of the Lambda architecture. They are mostly variations of the Lambda architecture. The image that I selected to represent the Lambda architecture mentions some technologies. The technology itself doesn't mind. We don't care about the technology because we can build the Lambda architecture with the technology we choose. What's important is the meaning of the architecture itself. The point is that we have an ingestion point, a starting point where the information comes in. In Azure, for example, this starting point is called Event Hub. The event stream in Fabric replaces the Event Hub. And what's important in relation to the Lambda architecture is that the Lambda architecture creates two layers, two flows of data from the initial ingestion of the data. We create one flow of data which is called a speed layer, and one flow of data which is called batch layer. Why? Why do we need two flows of data? Well, if we need real-time information, it's because we need to take some action very fast. When something happens with one information, we need to take an action fast in relation to that information. That's where the speed layer comes into the scenario. The idea of the speed layer is to ignore everything which is not related to your decision, to the decision that needs to be made on this architecture. Ignore everything else. Summarize the data. Summarize the data? Yes, summarize the data. In taxi rides, it makes sense that you would like to have the data for every ride. But imagine that you are using IoT, for example, Internet of Things, and you are receiving information from hardware devices in an industry. You are receiving information from a hardware device, the temperature measure of each device every 3 seconds. Do you need to keep this data if that temperature is not changing? If the temperature on every 3 seconds is not changing, couldn't you aggregate? Maybe aggregate on the temperature of every 30 seconds instead of 3, 1 minute, depending on the scenario. So in many scenarios of real-time ingestion, you make an aggregation of the data and makes your analysis over the data over the aggregation of the data. That's the task of string analytics in Azure if you were using Azure, but in Fabric, this is replaced by the event stream. The event stream makes the task of both Event Hub and the string analytics. It replaces both. The data from the speed layer, it can be used to generate an action. We can generate an action from the data of the speed layer. We can use to show a dashboard with the data from the speed layer. But after that, we decide to just discard. We already discarded on the beginning. We discarded everything that was not related to the decision that had to be made. We discarded on the beginning, then we aggregated, then we make the work that we need to do, and then we discard. The data from the speed layer is not intended to be kept. Hello, good evening. Welcome. The batch layer exists exactly for the opposite scenario. Because although you may have fast decisions to make with the data which is arriving, you would like to store this data as well. In some situations, you would like to store this data not even aggregated. In the example of tax rights, I would like to take some decisions in relation to aggregated tax rights, but I still would like to save every single tax right in a store. However, this is intended to be a historical store to be analyzed later by someone using a Power BI report, for example. So the batch layer can be, for example, a lakehouse. It's not intended to be something also fast reaction as a custom database. That's why custom database is better for the speed layer storage, and a lakehouse is better for the batch layer storage in the Fabric environment. Previously, considering this Lambda architecture, what existed before in Fabric, how Fabric started. I mentioned this on the last session we had about real-time analytics. What happened? We had the input point, the entrance point. Then we had to redirect the data to a destination. And the transformations were made by each destination. The transformations had to be made by the custom and had to be made by the lakehouse. Many times, it's very often that you would like to make the same transformations for both storage. This is common. This is something that will happen often. But previously, you couldn't. This was a limitation in Fabric. So we couldn't say that Fabric was ready to build a full Lambda environment inside Fabric. It was close, the closest it had, but it was failing in some points. We couldn't make transformations first and then send the result to batch and the speed layer. This was not possible. We had to send the input data to each layer and then make the transformations on each layer and sometimes duplicate the work. This was not good. The transformations were tied to the target, and in some cases, the transformations were duplicated. Welcome. So this was not a good option. So what Microsoft created? Microsoft created what is called now as event string enhanced capabilities. Event string enhanced capabilities. It's basically, it solves this problem and solves this problem very gracefully. It's absolutely great. There are very few reasons to not use the event string enhanced capability. How do you use it? You create an event string, and then how you decide if you are using the event string enhanced capabilities or not. When you create an event string, it asks that for you. And it's not default. It asks on this checkbox when you choose the option to create a new event string. Would you like to use the enhanced capabilities or not? If you choose not, you fall on the old UI to create the event string scenario with the old limitations that I mentioned some of them. But if you choose to use the enhanced capabilities of the event string, then you see the new UI. That's what I'll demonstrate in a few minutes. The new UI of the event string. Why would you not choose the enhanced capabilities of event string? First, it's in preview. Some companies really don't like to use preview features. Although Microsoft is moving so fast with Fabric, that many times we end up deciding to use features in preview. There are many features inside the Fabric environment which are absolutely fantastic, and they are still preview. This is one of them. The enhanced capabilities of event string is one of these features. It's still in preview. Other possible reason for not using the enhanced capabilities of event string. They are not equal yet. Both UIs are not equal yet. I mean, the enhanced capabilities don't have all the features of the other one. There are some connectors, for example, on the other one that the enhanced capabilities don't have, and vice versa. So sometimes Microsoft does this kind of. How could it code? But anyway, most of the time, 90%, 99% of the situations I would recommend, yes, go ahead and use the enhanced capabilities. So let's see a demonstration. Let's see this work. The enhanced capabilities work. So here I have the workspace real-time multi-stream. Click new and choose to create a new event stream. So add string. And I'll check the box to use the enhanced capabilities of event string. Just check the box and we go to the better UI instead of the weaker UI. Create. Okay, so I need now to define the source of data that I use. And one very interesting option that Fabric has is to use sample data. We can use sample data, what helps in many situations like a technical session like this one. I don't need to create a source that will send data every second. I just use the sample. And the sample does that. So yellow taxi, I'll call as rides source. Add. That's it. So I have my source of data, ride source, and I can already see some sample data which is arriving. The event string already connects to the source and shows the data at this moment. But now, on the enhanced capabilities, we have the control of the publish button, and we have the control of an edit drop-down, meaning that we are editing this string and we can change to view. If you haven't seen the old UI, I imagine most of you haven't seen the old UI, you may not notice how important these two features are. It's because on the old UI, you were dropping objects to make the transformation, and Fabric was already making the transformation and saving the result before you completed the configuration. So it was not very nice. So now we have a control of publishing and a control of the event string in edit mode. From here, I can choose to send the data directly to a destination or to make some kind of transformation with the data. For example, one very common transformation and a transformation which is needed with the data from taxi rides is about manage fields. The manage fields transformation allows me to choose the data type of the fields and choose which fields I will really ingest and which fields I will ignore because they are not important for us. So this is the first transformation which I will include here, the manage fields transformation. So let's click here. Let's call it set field types. I choose the button to add all the fields by default. I don't need to add one by one. Add all the fields. Then I will choose the fields where I would like to change their type. These steps are already very interesting in comparison to previous methods in Fabric because previously I couldn't make these transformations here. I had to set the destination and the transformations had to be done inside the destination. Now I can transform first and send to the destination the data we're transforming. For example, the definition of the data type for these fields will be the same, either for the speed layer or for the batch layer. In the Lambda architecture, the definition of the data types will be the same. Hello, welcome. Good evening.
I was a bit lost. Oh, sorry.
So, I will choose some fields and they define the data type. For example, pick up date time. I can choose the type date time. So I start choosing one by one. Drop off date time. I choose to convert the type from a string to date time. Passenger count. Passenger count as a string. So I define as a need. Total amount. double. There are other fields that could be transformed in double, for example, amount, double. So in this way, I can use this transformation. I can use this transformation to define the types of the fields that I want, or even remove fields if I don't want those fields. If those fields are not important for me, I can just remove them. Basically, I'm selecting the fields which I use. Save. So, set field types. Fabric is in a hurry. It starts saying that we are doing mistakes. Not because we are doing mistakes, but we haven't completed yet. We haven't defined the destination. So Fabric is in a hurry and keeps saying that it's on error. It's not on error. You just need to complete. Okay. Then, all this set of fields, this is typical of the batch layer. As I mentioned when explaining the lambda architecture, the entire set of data I probably would like to store for historical analysis. So we can do this using the batch layer. So I can define the destination as a lakehouse. And I'll configure the lakehouse destination. One of the things that I need to define here is the name of the destination. This is not very intuitive. We don't get it from the beginning. The point is that when we define destinations, I can't put one lake house, one custo, and send many tables for each one. No, I can't. Each destination object is for one table. So if I want to send many tables to the lake house, I will have many destination objects pointing to the same lake house. So the name of the destination object, destination name, needs to be according to what I'm sending there. I'm sending the rights. So I can define as rights destination. Rights, let's call rights lake to make it visible the kind of destination that we are creating. Target. Then I will define to where it's going. It's going to a lake house, which is in real-time Malta Lake. This workspace, real-time Malta Lake. I mentioned on the beginning that I already have a lake house created there. I have a lake house created there. Let me go there. So real-time Malta Lake, the workspace, I have a lake house called Malta Lake. I already created in this workspace. I can open the SQL endpoint to see the content, and the content is the table locations, the dimension that I said that was preloaded to classify our data, our rights data according to the location of the pickup and the drop-off. But that's the only thing that is there until now. Then I'll choose the lake house, Malta Lake. So it didn't find any table compatible with the set of data that I'm defining. So I choose create new. I'll create a new table. Let's call this table taxi rights. And the event string will create this table inside the lake house for me. Save. That's it. So I have my source defined, which I'm using a sample. Then I make a transformation, defining the data type of the fields which are arriving. Then I send these fields to a lakehouse. I can decide to make more transformations because this is the batch layer, which is storing everything, just storing. Now I can decide to make some aggregations, calculations over this data. For example, let's say the transformation. There are some tweaks in relation to the visual environment. For example, although I have our kind of plus sign here, I can't use this plus sign anymore. It will put everything out of order. I need to add the transformation as an isolated transformation. What I want to do? I want to group my data. I want to know totals related to the taxi line according to the pickup location and according to the drop-off location. I want to have both. What can I use? Because things are still in beta version, I can't imagine another reason for things being still in beta version. Microsoft created two transformations to make the same thing. Is the aggregate transformation and the group by transformation. These two transformations, aggregate transformation, group by transformation, are intended to make them absolutely the same thing. So which one do you use? Which one do you choose? When using the enhanced capabilities of Event Stream, you choose the group by. The group by has additional features that the aggregate, the functions of the aggregate are limited, the time management of the aggregate is limited, and all these you have in the group by transformation. So you choose the group by transformation. Then, once I selected the group by transformation, I can link one point of my data flow, let's say like this, to this group by transformation. So I can get this flow from the set field types to the group by. And this works. If I had tried to use this plus, it destroys everything. But putting the transformation isolated and then getting the link, it works. Now I can go to the group by settings. What a group by. Pickup group. So I group by the data according to the pickup location. So, aggregation function. It asks for the aggregate type. It may seem strange, but before asking what field are you aggregating by? No, it's asking the calculations. First, I set the calculation. What am I calculating? I'll calculate a count of the rows, total rows, a count of rows according to the aggregation that I'll make later. It allows me to set the name of the field. So I can set this field as total rides. The total number of rides according to a pickup location. Okay, then add. It's a bit strange, probably a bug because this is still in beta, but after I click on the add, it shows me that I make a count of all rows. It doesn't show me the name of the field that I just created. Yeah. It's not polite. I'll create one more. I'll create sun of total amount. See, when I said that I would be doing a sum, it immediately limited the fields that I could choose, only the numeric fields, of course. It immediately limited the field that I would choose. So sum of total amount, no problem. Add. So I have a count of our rows and a sum of the total amount. Then I'll define the group by. The group by will be made by the field pickup location ID. Remind what I explained on the very beginning, that the real-time data, the ingested real-time data, comes with IDs. The actual values or representation of these will be in a dimension table. The locations table already loaded in the layout. The location table. So I appointed pickup location ID. Okay. And then it asks me the kind of window I would like to use. What does this mean? I'm aggregating. I'm aggregating data which is arriving every second for me. How I will aggregate this data? Let's say that I will aggregate the data in the level of minutes. I will aggregate the data for every minute. Okay, but how? How will I control the time window? Until we face this precise data challenge, we don't realize how this changed the result. For example, am I aggregating 1 minute, 1 full minute, then skipping to the next minute, immediately skipping to the next minute, or would I be sliding and aggregating the amount of data on the last minute? And the result becomes completely different. In some cases, duplicated, but depends on the purpose of the analysis that will be done over this data. Everything will depend on the purpose of the analysis over the data. Okay, then I can click Save. And I have the pickup group. Okay, and the destination. Now, this is the speed layer. This is something for the speed layer, so I choose a Custo as a destination. The Custo as destination has the options to make a direct ingestion or even processing before ingestion. We already made this choice, because if I'm transforming the data before the ingestion, I'm using the second option. A direct ingestion would mean the data coming from the source directly to Custo, and the Custo database has ingestion features to transform this data inside the database. So we would put the transformations not in the event stream, but in another place. This is another option, another way to build this architecture. But I'm not using this. I use the event processing before ingestion, exactly what we had developed, and define the destination name. The destination name is the pickup to target. Pickup custo target, and eu choose real-time multi custo. I'll choose the real-time house, the event house, and create the destination table. Create new. So let's call it pickup Let's go with pickup. Okay, done. So I did a mistake. Discard. I can't create the table before I link this, otherwise I have a problem. Let me drop this. Now it will work by linking target. Now I define the destination, pickup custom target, workspace real-time Malta Custo, KQL, real-time house, destination, create table, pickup summary. I'll use a different name just to be sure I'll not have problems. Okay, save. That's it. So I have here a speed layer and a batch layer developed in this environment. And I can increase this, not a problem. I can put another group by, for example. We have the pickup and we have the drop-off. So I can make another group by, drop-off group. I will make a count of our rows, total rights, add, and a sum of total amount, add, group by drop-off location ID. You choose the drop-off location ID. I will specify the duration, 1 minute. Okay, save. It's done. I need to define the destination, the target, what I mentioned before. I need to repeat the target, even if it's the same database. I need to repeat for each table. So the name of the destination will be now drop off custo target. We make this link. Malta Custo, real-time house, create a table, drop off summary. Done and save. So our flow of data is increasing. And the data in Custo is intended to be temporarily stored. We don't keep this data in Custo for historical purpose. I mentioned the speed layer. We use, analyze, and drop. That's how useful some Custo policies are. We have a retention policy that we can apply in Custo to define this data will last here for 1 month. After 1 month, you drop it. Okay, it will be automatic. We don't need to create a shadow flow to drop records older than 1 month. Nothing like that. We just create a policy inside Custo to set that every record older than 1 month needs to be dropped. Okay, and will we not store this? Well, I'm already storing the raw data, the write. But if for some reason I really want to also store the aggregated data, I can. There is nothing that forbids me to do that. Let's see. An example. I'm adding another target, Lakehouse target. Let's call pickup lake target. Real-time mount lake. Lakehouse, mount lake. Okay. Now I'll create the table. I'll call it pickup. Done. And save. Yeah, this feature is in preview. Sometimes can give some unexpected bugs. Some very unexpected bugs. I thought I was editing this target, I was editing this target. Table. First, the raw target, right click target, right to lake, house, wait, text here, right. Done, save. Right lake target. Now, another lake house target. Point here and pick up lake target. Same lake house, real time mount the lake house. Create a table, and the table will be pickup summary. Okay. So, in this example, we have an entire flow according to a Lambda architecture, receiving the source data, making transformations in different paths in speed layer and in batch layer, and sending these transformations to the targets. The speed layer goes to a custom database, and the batch layer goes to a lakehouse. In some cases, we want that same data in two places. One will be there for 1 month, the other will be stored for historical purposes. Any questions until now? Very easy. Fabric is easy. Let's publish. Commenting the entire topology. And it's already pointing that to a point in a minute that the streaming is happening. At the moment is showing that it's processing, and the drop down which has editing is now live. So this event stream is live, receiving data from the sample wide source, and in a moment have delivered the data to the targets. While we can make a refresh here. Streaming. It becomes green and indicates that it's streaming to these targets. Let me open the other one. Time of the custo. We see the event house in the custo database. So we see here the drop-off summary and the pickup summary that are going to the custo database. Custo target. Of custo target. Let's check the ones on the lake house. Okay, unfortunately, the mix that I did in the middle of the configuration, that I configured the wrong one, then I dropped it and got back, created an error. The solution would be to go back to edit and fix these two targets. These two lakehouse targets would need to be fixed. But I'm not spending more time fixing this at the moment. Later, I may come back and fix it. Let's advance. Now that we saw the enhanced event stream, that's the idea of the enhanced event stream. Let's advance to the next subject. In the enhanced event stream, we can build scenarios like this. And let's start talking about the real-time dashboard. The idea of the real-time dashboard is to be capable to show the information arriving in real time and make an auto refresh of the information arriving in real time. The old dashboards, and keep in mind, don't mistake this with reports. I'm talking really about the dashboard object in Power BI. The old dashboard object in Power BI was too tired with old technologies like the streaming data sets and so on. So it was not possible to adapt to this. So Microsoft created the real-time dashboards. So let's see how the real-time dashboards work. Here I'm using the event house and the custom database. Of course, I can use Explore data and I can make custom queries over my data. I can, of course I can. So why I don't start here? Because if I want to create a real-time dashboard, the feature to quickly create a real-time dashboard doesn't exist here. It only exists if I'm using an object called query set. There are many different ways to achieve this. The one I consider the easiest is to start from a query set. So starting from a query set, I have an example of a query that I can use in the dashboard. This query is made over the table pickup summary. When the information is aggregated, I get a time information specifying the window end time according to the window configuration that I defined on the group by inside the event string. So I get this window end time field. Then, what I call this I call a bug. For me, this is a bug. The calculated fields on the group by, they don't come as integer or double. They come as dynamic. I consider this a bug. In some attempts that I did, not even changing the managed field, use the managed field to change the time, doesn't work. It continues as dynamic. It insists to be dynamic. And it's a bug because you need these fields to be numeric to make calculations in your custom queries. So we end up needing to make conversions of some fields. Some fields need to be converted, like the PU location ID I'm converting, and although this is not one of those that I mentioned, and the total rides I'm converting. I'm converting total rides to real. It should already be real. It should, but it came with the type dynamic. I consider this a bug. Okay, and what else I'm doing here? The power of custom. If I want the data from the last 2 hours, I just use ago 2 hours. This is the power of the custom language. Then I'm joining this information with the dimension information related to locations. I'm joining to the locations by the pickup location ID. But the location is in the lake house. Yes, the location is in the lake house. But this I did before the session. I went to the custom database and created a shortcut pointing to the lake house. So I can access the shortcut by using the expression external table. I access the shortcut which points to the lakehouse. So I can, in a single custom query, join information which is arriving in real time and the dimensions which are hosted by the lakehouse. I can join both information. Then I'm summarizing the information, getting the total number of rides according to the borrow. And I'm making a specific bin in relation to time. I'm making a bin of 1 minute. I'm aggregating the information. I'm making the aggregation for each minute. It's a kind of coincidence that I choose the being of 1 minute inside the event string and I'm choosing the being of 1 minute here. It's a kind of coincidence. I'm not obliged to follow this. Okay. The fact that I'm filtering out some bottles is because I know, because previous tests, that these 3 bottles are outliers. They will make the chart a bit ugly. So I'm excluding some outliers. Okay, of course I can run this query. I can run this query and get the result, of course. But that's not the main reason I'm using this here. The main reason I'm using this here is to use the option pin to dashboard. This option only exists inside the query set. I can make the query inside the custom database, but there is no option pin to dashboard there. Here I have inside the query set option, I have the pin to dashboard option. So I can pin to dashboard and I choose. You would like to choose an existing dashboard or do you want to create a new one? I will create a new one. I will choose to create a new dashboard. What's the dashboard name? Let's call the dashboard name as lights. What's the tile name? Tile name. What does this mean? This means that the result of this query will become a tile inside the dashboard that I selected. And I need to define the name of this tile. Pick up locations and create. Done. It's done. Let me open it. The dashboard was automatically created inside the same workspace where I was already working, in the same workspace where the query set was. Yeah, that UI gives us no option to choose where the dashboard would be. We don't have option for that. Then I can open the rights dashboard. And I can see my pickup location file. Okay, I have the data for my query there. What makes this a real-time dashboard? Let's edit it. I can manage the auto refresh of this dashboard. And I can define that I want to enable auto refresh of this dashboard. I can, at this window, I'm creating the dashboard. I will define what's the minimum amount of time allowed for the auto refresh. I can define that this dashboard will not accept an auto refresh lower than 1 minute, for example. The users can change the auto refresh, but not below this value that I set. But I will put 10 seconds and apply. In this way, I'm defining the auto refresh rate. When I change this to viewing and save changes, the dashboard is configured with an auto refresh of 10 seconds. The user of the dashboard can change this, but it starts with the default of 10 seconds. But my dashboard is not beautiful in any way. No, it's not. Let's go back to editing. Edit. So I can change the visual type. Of course, I don't have all the possible visuals that the Power BI report has, but I have many possible visuals. And I can choose, for example, a line chart for the dashboard. It's already giving me results, yes, because it's intelligent. It's trying to guess which column should go where. So Y is total rights, X is the time window, and the series is the bar. So it guesses correctly which column should go where. It correctly guesses the columns, and then I make and apply changes. And we have one first tile in our dashboard. And this tile is refreshing every 10 seconds. And I mentioned before that the real-time dashboard is the starter to make actions from our data, to transform our data in actions. The starting point is the real-time dashboard. Two, what if I want to make some action from this data according to some condition? I would need to use the set alert, but the set alert is disabled. Why the set alert is disabled? If I move the mouse over the set alert, it tells me the reason that is disabled. I know it's not possible to read from this distance. Alerts can only be set for tiles with a single time range. Ensure there is only one time range parameter in use and try again. It's strange because it's not easy to identify that our tile has more than one time range. It doesn't seem to make sense. It's because we need to look to the total of the dashboard. This dashboard already came to us with a parameter. This parameter in the top. This parameter is defining the time range of the dashboard. And this parameter becomes a variable. In fact, this parameter becomes two variables, which we can use in our queries. So, because I'm not using the parameter and I'm using a fixed value, the real-time dashboard tells me that I have two time ranges. I have the parameter and a fixed value. So we need to change that. We need to edit the query, and here where window end time is greater than ago 2 hours. What I will do, I will use the parameter variable. If I really don't know the parameter variable, there is an option that manage parameters where I could check this information. But I know the parameter variable, I can use an underscore, and it shows me that that time range, which is on the top of the real-time dashboard, generates the variables start time and end time. So I can add the start time in my query. Instead of using a query with a fixed time range, I use a query linked to the time range of the dashboard. The first benefit of this is that I really can change this time range. For example, I can change to 3 hours. And it just don't go so long ago because I just created the event stream. The data was just ingested. I don't have so old data, but I could put 30 minutes. It's 8:36 now, but it's pointing me the most current data as 6:36, 6:39. Why? Because it's UTC. We are on +2. Okay. So then increasing to 1 hour. So the visual will be flexible according to the parameter. And this is an example of parameter because we can create different parameters here. We can create different parameters to use with this visual. And what's interesting is that now the set alert is enabled. Also, this means that because I'm now using the time range of the dashboard, it enables the set alert. I can create an alert over this data. I can define, for example, that I would like to receive an email every time a borrow goes over 15 writes per minute. For example, minute is the degradation defined on the query. So every time a borrow goes over 15 writes per minute, I would like to receive an alert. And it's possible I can create an alert like this. For example, set alert. On each event group by borrow when total writes and what's the condition? Becomes greater than 15. And I have the option send me an email or send me a message in Teams. Isn't this limited? What if I would like to send an email to another person? What if I would like to send a Teams message to another person? Isn't these options limited? Yes, they are. But the point is that this feature related to actions, triggers, and triggering an action from the data, we can reach this feature from many points in the UI. From some places, we'll see many limitations like here. I can send an email to me, I can send a team message to me, and only that. But this doesn't mean that the feature has this limitation. It's a wide limitation. But when I create this alert, it is telling me that it will create an object. Yes, it will create an object. The object that will be created to support this alert is called a reflex object. We call this a reflex object. So I will create this object, create an item. Borrow, write, alert. So I'm giving the name of my reflex object and I choose create. Behind all this that we're calling alert, a reflex object, behind all these names that will get mixed in the Y, in many different places in the Y, the core feature that we are talking about is called data activator. Data activator is the feature inside Microsoft Fabric which allow us to generate actions from our data. We can use the data activator to generate actions from our data. So the alert is created. Okay. Now that the alert is created, I have here the reflex object, which we just created. Borrow, write, alert, the reflex object. So I can click on it, and now having the reflex object in hand, I have all the flexibility of the data activator. All the flexibility of the data activator. I have a trigger and an action. So the trigger being a query, considering that the trigger is a query, I don't directly see the original query. It appears as something encoded for us. So the trigger starts from a query and it has a condition. When the value becomes greater than 15, this is the condition I created. This condition we can manipulate. We can manipulate this condition, choose this condition in different way. Okay. So this condition we can manipulate, and we have the action. The action is defined as send email. So with the action send email, it's defined to send an email to myself. Okay. What if I wouldn't like to send an email to myself? What if I would like to send an email to someone else? The address is here. In the same way, I have the subject, the headline, optional message, and so on, additional information to put in the email, and so on. So I can configure all this information related to the email, and I can change the target of the email. I can define that the target of the email will be a different address. Okay, this is possible. But the send email action and the Teams message action inside the data activator, even inside data activator, they have a limitation. Their limitation is that they can only send message inside the same tenant domain of the Power BI. So you can't send a data activator message to outside your company, to a domain that is different than your Power BI domain. But if you need, what if you need? How do you work around this limitation? Simple. You don't send a message. You choose the option to execute a Fabric item. Instead of changing sending a message, I can execute a Fabric item. What Fabric item? I can execute a data pipeline. inside the data pipeline has the activities to send an email and send a Teams message. You can send both in a single action. What the data activator doesn't allow by default to send both in a single action. But you can if you choose to execute a Fabric item and take an action from that. So you can choose to execute the data pipeline. And inside your data pipeline, you configure to send an email and send a Teams message. The actions of the data pipeline to do these tasks, they allow you to choose any destination. They don't restrict the destination of the email or the Teams message. You can send the Teams message to a channel, for example. By default on Data Activator, you can send a message to a channel, and so on. And all this, we are talking only about sending a message. What if you want to do something? Again, Fabric item. You can use a data pipeline to execute a task when a borrower gets more than 15 rides on one specific minute. Maybe you would like to adjust something in your system, adjust the price of the rides, for example, to maybe attract taxi drivers to one specific region, for example. Maybe this is an interesting option. And you don't need to stick to a data pipeline. You can execute a notebook as well. Both data pipelines and notebooks are accepted to execute an item from a reflex object. Questions? How this, I explained it, means that if you have your data inside a Kusto database, probably ingested through an event stream, but who knows, maybe not. But if you have your data inside a Kusto database, what you need to do is to build a Kusto query, pin that Kusto query to a real-time dashboard, and once that Kusto query is inside the real-time dashboard, you can generate actions from the values that query will result when some element, some dimension of the values reach some specific condition that you define. You can execute actions, which goes way beyond just sending alerts in emails or things, but execute an entire data pipeline or an entire notebook, changing configurations on your system according to what is happening with your data. But what if your data is not in Kusto? What if your data is in a lakehouse and not in Kusto? How can you use the real-time dashboard? Because what I just exemplified, a real-time dashboard from a query and an action from a tile in a real-time dashboard is something very useful and doesn't depend on a real-time ingestion. What if your data is in a lakehouse and not in Kusto? How can you do the same? Well, let's suppose you don't have a real-time ingestion in your environment, so you have no need to create a Kusto database. What you do? You create a Kusto database anyway. But the only thing that you put inside your Kusto database will be shortcuts to your lakehouse. Make Kusto queries over the shortcuts to your lakehouse. the queries that you build over the shortcuts to your lakehouse, they are pinnable inside the real-time dashboard. This means you can use the real-time dashboard with a lakehouse, and they accept the creation of alerts over those queries. So you can enjoy these features, enjoy the real-time dashboard and the data activator, even if you don't have a real-time ingestion. Even if you are not using an event stream, only using a lakehouse, the only trick, the only workaround you need to do is to have an empty CustoDB where you put shortcuts and start your queries from there to create the real-time dashboard. That's it. It's so simple, so obvious. When we note that we can do that, yes, we can do that. It works. Okay. Just for us to play a bit more with this real-time dashboard, I can rename this page. Let's call the page borrows. Then I can manage parameters. Let's create a new parameter. Let's call this parameter borrow. This parameter will have the value from one query. So these are the possible values for this parameter. So I'm defining the possible values for the parameter borrow. Add. Okay. So value column borrow, label column borrow, the full value, let's put Brooklyn and save. Okay. So the parameter borrow is created, is visible here, but what I'll do is that. Let's create another page. Let's create page by zones. So a real-time dashboard can have multiple pages. And in these multiple pages, I can create a new tile. And I need a query for this new tile. Let's get a query for it here. I'm getting the same query. However, I'll change the filter and make the borrow equal to the parameter. So now I'm making a tile where I can filter the content of the tile according to my parameter. In Custoa, it uses 2 equals. So I'm filtering the content of the tile according to my parameters. This is already quite interesting. Zones. Let's change this to a line shot. Okay. I need to change the query. The group by is not group by borrow. Group by borrow has only one line. Of course, it would have only one line. Group by zone. So I filtered the borrow and made the group by zone. Now it makes sense. Zone, okay. It's a bit overcrowded according to the borrow I choose, but it shows the example. It exemplifies what I mean here. But then I can get to the first page. I can edit the pickup locations. I can use the interactions options and make a drill through. Yes. From the first visual, I can make a drill through to the second page, the page of zones. The column on my visual is borrow, which I want to send to the other page, but I send the value using a parameter to transfer the value from one page to another. So I choose the parameter borrow and apply. That's it. I have an interaction set up. So if I right click, I can make a drill through to the other page, to the zones page, filter by the borrow that I selected on the previous page. A back button. And I can also use the manage parameters option to edit the parameter borrow and choose it to be displayed only on the zones page, not on the borrows page. Doesn't need to be visible on the borrows page. Okay, so I can right click. The drill through options is still here, zones, Bronx, and showing me the zone, the rights according to the zones of the Bronx, New York. Questions? No, very simple. Okay. Let's summarize it. What we just saw about the real-time dashboard. We saw that it accepts multiple pages, parameters, it has an auto refresh, it has a drill through, and there is also an interaction that I haven't shown now. I will send a link by email later with some reference and including the reference to interaction. Reference to interactions, it means that I can have two visuals in the same page of the dashboard, and one selection in one visual will affect it. Triggers and actions, well, as saw examples like the data activator is the underlying feature. A reflex object is created when we are creating a trigger and an action. There are multiple UI starting points for this. I recommended one that I believe is extremely powerful, the query set using a custom query. There are different limitations according to the starting point. Many starting points on the UI you find different limitations, but the trick is later to go to the reflex object and edit it. And even configure it to execute a fabric item. So you overcome the limitations of the object. There are object checks and quick checks. Everything that we saw about Alert on this session was about query checks, was about to having query inside the custom environment, put the query in a dashboard, and from there set an alert. So you have your query and you make checks over the query. Create triggers and actions over the query. But you can make these also related to objects. For example, The event string, which was the first element I created. An event string having a source and defining a target as a lake house or a custom, right? When flex is accepted as a target. A target of my event string could be the reflex object. And my real-time streaming could go directly to a reflex object, which would be analyzing a condition and taking an action according to the data which is arriving in real time. The data would be completely dropped later, but the reflex would be analyzing, taking an action from that. In this case, I don't have complex conditions possible. I don't have the ability to make a query. What is arriving? It's identified as an object. What is an object? In our example, the object itself can be, for example, one driver. One driver can be considered an object. And what can we analyze in relation to this object, in relation to the driver, for example? We can analyze the amount of rides this driver is making along the time. So for the object driver, we can analyze the amount of rides, the total fares, the total tips this driver is receiving, but it's always an analysis fixed with this relation between an object which is arriving and repeatedly arriving along the time. Then the reflex object analyzes this object and take actions from this object. So we can consider these two different kinds of analysis. A check of an object, which is analyzing over an event string, for example, or a check over a query. In this case, we create a query and we make the checks in relation to the query. Okay. Lakehouse and real-time dashboard, we talked about this, and the trick is extremely simple. Use shortcuts. Use shortcuts. In some cases, having a CustoDB only to hold the shortcut for you to be able to use the real-time dashboards and triggers. Custo policies, I mentioned the existence of custo policies. One that I mentioned is the retention policy. They are part of the reasons why custo is so better choice in relation to the speed layer. One of the policies that I mentioned is the retention policy. I can define that the data will be retained for only 1 month. I have other policies like update policy, ingestion mapping policy. Update policy can make a join of the data which is arriving with the dimension data. If the dimension data is in custo, it doesn't work with shortcut. That's sad. But it would be a great feature if we can do that. Ingestion mapping policy. If you decide to ingest the data directly in Custo, Custo can make transformation in JSON level. It receives a JSON document and we can extract values from the JSON document and define what will be the final format of the table inside the Custo using an ingestion mapping policy. So the policies make the Custo a very powerful database as a speed layer for the real-time intelligence environment. I have an example here that I didn't fully test it, but we can try. I have here an example. Let's see, drop-off summary. First, I use the show table drop-off summary policy retention. If there were some retention policy, it would show, but it's no. There is no retention policy. I can create a retention policy for the table of summary. I confess I didn't fully test the syntax, but I got from a good reference. So alter table drop off summary policy retention. I'm creating the retention policy to retain the data for 30 days. Recoverability enable allows the data to be recovered by 14 days after this 30. I could disable it and let the data go after 30 days. It's optional. So I can create. The syntax is not perfect. As I said, I didn't fully test the syntax. There is something. It's complaining about something, but it's similar to this. The syntax is more or less this. I will send some links of reference about that because we talked about a lot of things. So I'll send some reference about this that we talked about. Any questions? No. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have plans to use some of these features or many of these features. And let's make. Tá tudo pronto? Eu só tenho. Let's make a small raffle. It's something very simple, but still interesting. So it's a set with a pen, a notebook. Let's see.
Okay.
You get to the top of the data section. Welcome. Thank you very much for attending. I hope you all liked it, enjoyed the session. I will send some reference links later to the email that you hashed to it. And I hope to see you on the next ones soon.
Thank you.
See you. I think there are some snacks outside. There may be some snacks still outside.
Did you?